Thank you for joining us here today on Caffeine TV. My name is Melissa Tosetti, and I am the founder of The Savvy Life.
And I am Kevin Gibbons. I'm the COO of The Savvy Life.
And we are also cash flow planning experts, I guess you would say.
we do market ourselves as experts. Yes.
We have definitely hit the tipping point of time spent on working with people on their spending, on creating spending plans, on streamlining. This is the first time that you are joining us here on Caffeine TV and are wondering what a Savvy Life is all about, living a Savvy Life is the name of, or the Savvy Life is the name of our business, obviously, but the idea of living a Savvy Life is about creating a strong financial foundation while you enjoy the journey, and doing that by being very purposeful with where you spend your time and where you spend your money. So it really just comes down to becoming aware.
Yeah.
And purposeful is really the best way that I could describe it.
Yeah, it's the idea of making sure that what you do, you're doing with intention rather than just reacting to your situation or doing it out of habit without really understanding that it is advancing your interests and your goals.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that we are so busy in this day and age. I say in this day and age, as human beings, we've always been busy, whether that was hunting and gathering.
Yeah. We're just busy with different things now.
Or commuting nowadays. But we're just so busy, and money moves so fast in so many different directions. It is, chaotic at best and catastrophic at worst. I was actually on the phone with clients here in Silicon Valley this morning, which is kind of a treat because we work with clients all over the U.S. And one of the things that one of the clients was talking about is when he thinks about their finances, he thinks of chaos. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's not their particular situation, that is just so very, very common. And so what our job is to help to just give clients and the readers of our articles, the people that attend our events, the people, you guys out there, how do you create structure around your finances, and not from a beat down, super structure, but just create some structure around it and create some habits and routines where you're just giving you an opportunity to spend the money the way you want it to go, rather than feeling like a pinball being, crashed from one bumper to the next.
Yeah, one thing that I often talk about is that you have a certain amount of brain power available to you, and you can devote that brain power to improvising how to get through your day, how to manage your finances, how to do other things, how to get up in the morning and take care of your morning routine and things like that. Or you can systematize those so that they're more habit, they take less brain power to do, and you still get the results you want, and that frees up your brain to do more creative things that are either more fun, more profitable, more useful, whatever. Yeah. So it's really just the idea of, I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time I open up my checkbook or every time I look at my bank statement. I want to have a system in place so that I know that it's a good system, I'm getting the results that I want, and I'm furthering my goals without having to spend so much thought power figuring out how to do it. So what we do is we just try to give the systems so that you can do that as well.
I think for a lot of people, it seems counterintuitive that when you create a bit of structure and routine around things, it feels like, it's one more thing I have to do, when it's quite the contrary. Those things become routine.
Yes.
And that frees up so much of your time and mental energy to do the things that you really want to do. Yeah. So with that being said, one thing I want to mention real quick is, if you are new to Caffeine TV, the way this works is, if you logged on to the website Caffeine TV /The Savvy Life, you can just watch us. And that's great. We've got plenty of information that we want to give to you today. Or if you would like to interact with us, the beauty of Caffeine TV is you can actually register with the website. It takes just a few minutes, only a few questions.
Free.
It's free. And that will allow you to be able to type in questions. And you'll see as we go along other people doing that. And for us, it makes it so much more fun. And it also makes sure that we are talking about the things that are going to be impactful for you. So think about it, if you get two experts at your fingertips, literally.
Yeah. So we're here at your beck and call within limits.
Within limits.
One other thing I want to mention, we'll talk about this at the end of the hour, but if you want to look at any of our other videos, we do record these sessions, And so if you go to thesavvylife.com, there's a menu item for videos, and you can see past episodes of Caffeine TV.
Yep.
So.
And if you like what you see, please like and subscribe to our stuff so you'll be notified whenever we upload our new videos.
Yep.
All right?
So what are we talking about today?
We have a lot to talk about. Starting with the one thing that we let the folks that subscribe to our newsletter know, we want to talk to you today about the 50-50 rule and how to apply the 50-50 rule to your life. And actually, it's very timely right now as people are hopefully getting tax refunds.
Yes.
Hopefully. So to give you an idea, I want to back up just a little bit and talk about why the 50-50 rule is probably one of the most powerful things that you can apply to your financial life. So one of the things that has happened, especially I would say in the last 40 years, is that there is a phenomena that is taking place, what we call it Goldfish syndrome. And that is that for most of us, as we get along in our career and we receive, bigger paychecks, maybe we receive bonuses as we go along, what ends up happening is that instead of feeling like, wow, I've got so much more money now, we feel like we're still living paycheck to paycheck. And the reason that is because as we receive the increases in income and the bonuses, what we have a tendency to do is we have a tendency to increase our cost of living. So we get the new job and a bigger pay increase. We replace the junker car with a better car, which is good. That's an important thing to do. And then might get a pay raise and decide to go ahead and buy the house. Fantastic, congratulations. But then we start to, we continue to increase. So we might get a bigger house, or
add a pool,
or
remodel part of the house or something.
Yeah,
or
buy an RV,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is all those things have bills attached to them. We're not necessarily paying them off in full. And so that is the number one reason why we have clients making $300,000, $500,000, $1 million a year and are still living paycheck to paycheck. They are not millionaires by any sense of the word. They're in fact at a very negative financial situation, and it just happens. And so the way that you combat the Goldfish syndrome is to to apply the 50-50 rule, which is simply, as you receive those pay increases, those bonuses, the tax refunds, you're going to take 50% of that money and immediately put it to your wealth building accounts. You could put that money to your 401k, your IRAs, your financial advisor, wherever that money is going to go, you're going to immediately set that aside. The other 50%, and this is the best part, is you get to spend that money on anything you want, with one hard, fast exception. And that is, you are not allowed to spend that on anything that will create a bill. So if you want to go out and buy a motorcycle and you can pay for it outright with that 50%, have at it, enjoy it. If you don't have enough money, but you want to use it as a down payment on a motorcycle, that's a deal breaker, because you've just increased your cost of living. Yep. Exactly. Yep. So in its simplest form, that is what the 50-50 rule is. And to me, it is the epitome of living a savvy life, because that 50% that you're putting towards your wealth building, you are creating a strong, solid financial foundation. The other 50%, yours to enjoy as you please. Money should be enjoyed, and this is how you do it responsibly.
So when you started talking, you said when you first get into this, maybe you replace your junker car with a car, and you stop renting, you buy your first house, things like that. So there are some caveats with applying the 50-50 rule. The idea is that when you get to a fairly modest, secure standard of living, like you said, get rid of the junker car, get one that's more reliable, that's fine. Then you are saving 50% of what you make. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we really tend to focus on a lot is saving 50% of the windfalls, saving 50% of the bonus, saving 50% of the tax return. But you brought up a good point, which is when you get a pay raise, if you start right there, if you get a 3% pay raise, which doesn't sound like very much, but is pretty close to the national average, if for yearly increases, you get a 3% pay raise, one half of that increase goes to your wealth building. Every month, automatically, it goes to your wealth building, and you only take that other half to go play with. If you think about it, you've established a certain standard of living, so You're kind of used to it. You're going to get a pay raise. You're going to increase your standard of living a little bit because you have a little bit of money to play with.
Yeah.
All right. And you're going to go save the rest of it, and it's not going to be painful. You're still getting more money than what you had before the raise. And I think that's really the key, is that you are getting rewarded. This is not a punishment by any stretch of the imagination. It's just making sure that you're wise with what you do with this money that comes in.
I was just thinking, one of the articles I promised myself I would write is a time-traveling financial article.
Yes, yep.
So it is the idea that your current self is taking care of your future self by putting this money away.
And your future self will thank you in 10, 20, 15, 30 years, whatever, yes.
I came up with that actually from a client that I worked with that works for Microsoft, and she made a comment that her past self screwed her future self, and that stuck with me because that is what ends up happening, but it doesn't always have to be a negative, it can be a positive.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest challenges around this idea goes back to something that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, where we talked about how we get a money mantra. We think of ourselves as, oh, I'm not good savers, or yeah, other people do that kind of stuff. I just, I don't have the discipline. That's all BS, right? Just like that, you can change the way that you are around money. And this is one of those things that is, you do it the one time, right? You set it up in that one moment, and the difference in your current life and your future life, it's night and day. I mean it sincerely. This is one of the most, most impactful things that you can do for your financial life, and finding that balance.
And if you think that, oh, I'm not the type of person who can do that, I can't make that change. Before we started this business, I was in the technical field, so I tend to geek out on a lot of technical stuff. I'll tell you a little experimental story that some scientists did. They put eyeglasses on people that inverted images to make everything appear upside down. So imagine that you're looking at the world normally. They put these glasses on. Suddenly, everything is upside down. It took less than 4 hours for the people's brains to rewire themselves and turn the images back around again to where they could now function with this review. And so they did some tests with that, and they took the glasses off. Everything was now upside down because their brain was rewired. And it took like about 4 hours for the people's eyes to correct again. If your brain can invert the world in 4 hours, you can learn how to manage your money.
Yeah.
I mean, we are incredibly sophisticated. We have incredibly adaptive brains. You can do this.
I'm kicking myself that I can't remember the name of the author. There's a woman in the education field that does a lot of studies about how it's coming back to me, not her name, but it's this thought process of yet. Have you heard of this?
No.
All right, I will when we upload this video, I'll get the name of the woman that I'm referring to. But basically, she found that in studying children, you have a group of children that they get a difficult math problem, a challenging math problem, and they get very excited about it, and they're trying to figure it out. And then you get the other group of children that are like, and they get very nervous. I was that other group of children. Anything that was new, I was very fearful of until about maybe like 5 years ago. But it was almost like a brick wall of learning anything new. I felt, and I was throwing at the brick wall. And when I started studying what I would call the success industry, started studying like why are some people really successful and things are very easy for them, and others there's more of a struggle. And it's a lot of it comes from just our story that we tell ourselves. And I love that idea of maybe you're not as good about money yet. Right? So there's that idea of being willing to learn. There's just something mental and emotional about that. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. And we tell clients all the time, this stuff happens in layers.
Yeah.
You're not. I've met clients that have been able to immediately make shifts and make changes, but I found that those clients were already working towards that.
Yeah,
they came primed.
They knew what they wanted to do,
Yeah.
They just didn't know how. So once we provide the how, they take off and running. The other clients are the ones that may know that there's something wrong or may not know that there's something wrong, but once we expose them to that, then they understand the idea, and then they start making the change. Yeah. So I just love your thoughts on that, actually. Again, if you would like to ask us any questions, feel free. You can type in the questions section if you want us to dive deeper on this. Otherwise,
have a couple other topics to go on. So we want to talk about the 50-50 rule.
Yep.
What was the other one that we told our readers that we would talk about?
No, it was just how to use a tax refund on the 50-50 rule. So that was the main
big
focus.
one.
Yeah. So the other one you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, a couple of ones I want to talk about. You know, a lot of the clients that we work with have credit card debt, specifically, or student loans, or whatever that might be, that they feel very, very weighed down by. And there's a way of going about and paying down credit card debt that is, experts all across agree, is the most efficient way to do that. And that is by implementing the Snowball debt repayment system. So the way that the Snowball debt repayment system works, and you're only able to use it if you have multiple cards that need to be paid off. But the idea is that, let's say you have 3 cards that need to be paid off, and they're at varying interest rates, and they're at varying, as typical, right, varying amounts that are owed. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick the one card that you want to start paying off more aggressively. Okay.
And we'll talk about how you choose that later.
Yeah. So you pick that one card, and what you're going to do is any extra amount that you can possibly responsibly, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, pay towards that card, you are going to go ahead and do that. Then the other 2 cards you will continue to pay on. Obviously, you're getting in trouble.
But you make the minimum payments.
Exactly.
Or close to.
You're going to make the minimum payments, because everything else is going to go. The idea is you're funneling any extra money towards one card.
Yeah.
Once that card is paid off, you're going to pick the next card that you want to pay on. And the money, all that money you were paying on that one card that's now paid off. Hey, Natasha. You're going to, thank you for sharing our broadcast. That money that you were paying on that one card that's now paid off, you're going to roll it on top of the next card that you want to pay off. So you're creating a snowman, right? And or snowball, sorry. So it's once that card's paid off, then everything is going to go onto that last card. So the idea is that your payments to the one card get bigger and bigger as you go along. Again, the most efficient and effective way to pay down that debt.
So one of the keys of that is if you have multiple debts, a lot of times you feel like you're playing whack-a-mole, or a more appropriate, actually, maybe the guy in the circus that's spinning the guy or girl that's spinning the plates, and you're always trying to keep the plate spinning. You run around, you're paying off on all these debts, and you're putting a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, and you're never getting anywhere, or you're making very, very slow progress. By doing this snowball, you're focusing on one specific debt, so you can actually see the progress, and so that's encouraging. So you feel like it's worth it putting that extra money in. And then by doing that rollover, you're not necessarily increasing the amount of money that you're spending, that you're using to pay off the bills. You're just taking that same amount and refocusing every time. So you're seeing faster and faster results, and it really isn't costing you necessarily any more, I don't really want to say pain, but it's not costing you any more expense money to do that. You have a finite amount of money, you're just targeting it in the best way.
I like it, for those of you that are familiar with guns, to the difference between shooting a shotgun, which has a bigger spray and a shorter distance, to a rifle, where you're just shooting straight through that debt.
Yeah.
So there's the snowball debt repayment system is something that a lot of people are very familiar with, so that's not necessarily new information. What I really want to talk about is, so many people, there's such a negative feeling around debt. And I get it, and understandably, right? You end up feeling weighed down by it. And so what ends up happening is, because of that, we want to be super aggressive about paying that debt down. And we've seen this again and again and again, that can put you into this horrific loop. So, for example, you have 3 credit cards, you want to put every single extra penny towards that. You're not going to go out to eat, you're not going to do any of these other things, and you're paying down those cards, you're actually getting some traction, and then the dishwasher breaks. Or, like in the Tosetti household, the pipe underneath our 80-year-old house has grease that is 80 years old, and it completely needs to be replaced in $800 later. By the way, the plumber was fantastic. If anybody's in our area wants a recommendation, they were wonderful. But right, that's just, it was an emergency, right? But you don't have an emergency fund. So what do? You have to put that on your card, and now all of a sudden you're back up.
You wiped out all your hard work.
Yeah. And then you're feeling like you're just bad about money.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You were just trying to be too aggressive. And so one of the things, and it can be very challenging trying to gently talk clients into this or get them to understand this. I'm a huge fan of putting money toward that debt, but also putting money towards the emergency fund. And even if it takes you longer to pay down that debt, you're going to be better off in the long run. You're going to have an opportunity to actually be successful rather than in that pendulum that happens to swing. It's very much like the 50-50 rule. I cannot emphasize enough how powerful being patient is. And when I think about the Snowball debt repayment plan, it's this idea of you don't fix it and forget it, but you fix it and you let it work.
Yeah.
You just let it work. And if you need to have action, your whole action is to do whatever you can to not increase the amount on those cards and to live within your spending plan.
Yeah.
Right?
Hello, thanks for joining us. You really hit on a key there, and I think that in a lot of ways, this is something that I don't think is unique to the Savvy Life and the way we do things, but it does seem to be somewhat rare, which is the whole idea of don't put every last penny into this debt repayment. Make sure that you have a system set up that is sustainable, and then put as much as you can while maintaining that sustainability into the debt repayment. And we've had a lot of clients who resisted us and said, no, I want to put every last penny in there. And we have to tell them, just like Melissa said, don't do that because you're at risk. If you don't have your money set aside for your emergency fund, if you don't have enough set aside to do these other expenses that are likely to occur, you're going to raid that debt repayment, and it's going to be demoralizing. What you want to do is you want to instill sound practices that give you some amount of reward so that they're reinforced. We want you to succeed. You should want to succeed. Yeah. And so the idea is to come up with a plan, develop a plan that actually is likely to succeed. And part of that means don't put all your money into the debt repayment. Make sure that you have enough money to cover your bills. Make sure you have enough money to cover emergencies so you're not going through this huge seesaw.
I would also add, make sure that there's fun in your spending plan. This is critical. I think that this is actually what sets the Savvy Life apart and the work that we do with clients is, I told you what the definition of living a savvy life is about creating that strong financial foundation. The while enjoying the journey part's our favorite.
It's important.
It's critical because if you have to endure a time, sometimes you have no choice, right? We absolutely understand that. But what we find is if we can create that balance and create those pockets of enjoyment or enjoyment every day, and that is about figuring out what is most important to you. What do you really want to be spending on? Streamlining, being purposeful. That makes all the difference in the world, because there's a thing that happens when you are being super frugal, and that is you hit frugal fatigue. And then very much like dieting, if your diet is too extreme, you're going to hit that time, and it's likely when you're tired, you're hungry, angry, whatever that might be, and you're just going to go off the deep end. And the negative part about that is you're going to spend that money randomly and not even on anything that is what you really want. And I say that from just having experienced that myself and from seeing so many people go through that process, having studied this for so long and working with clients.
Yeah, I think that is really the key, is that just like if you go to a good nutritionist, they'll talk with you about the idea that your goal is not to lose 10, 15, 20, 100 pounds. Your goal is to change the way you eat and think about food so you have a new food lifestyle. And we do the same thing. Our goal is not to help you get out of $5, $10, $20, $30,000 in debt. Our goal is to give you the tools so that you can embrace this lifestyle. One of the side effects of this lifestyle is eliminating that debt. But this is a lifelong thing. This isn't a case of where, I'm going to suck it up, I'm going to be incredibly frugal for the next 5 years until I get out of debt, and then I'm going to party like a drunken sailor. The idea, I married a sailor. The idea is that you change your lifestyle so that your spending and the way you think about money is in line with your goals and objectives for the rest of your life. And part of that is making sure that you take care of today and tomorrow.
We talk about when we're trying to describe to potential clients, financial advisors that we work with, that we look at money from a lifestyle perspective, and it really is. I'm fascinated by it, and it's kind of the best part, right? You've got the hard skills around learning how to track spending, learning the 9 money habits that we've alluded to and talked with you about, but it's the how to spend and really focus and build the life that you want around all the other things that is the fun part for us. Yeah.
I want to loop back. We did talk about the Snowball debt repayment plan. You talked about the importance of not putting all your money into it. One of the things that we mentioned and that we get back to later was how do you pick which debt to pay off first?
I'm curious what I think we might have differing.
we might. So there are a couple of different ways to do it, and I'm going to cop out and say choose the one that you like the best.
Because that's not a cop out. Yeah, that's all.
Because they all have different advantages. So you have 3 sources of debt. All right. You have a $200 debt. You have a $2,000 debt. You have a $20,000 debt. All right. They are all at different interest rates. All right. So you can pick which one you want to do. What most people will tell you is look at the size of the debt and the interest rate and pick the one that's going to cost you the most money and pay that one down first. So if you have a medium interest rate and a very high debt load, work on that one. If you have a lower debt load but it's a really high interest rate, work on that one. What I will tell you is pick the one that suits your mentality. One thing that works with a lot of people is pick the smallest one. Pick the one you can pay off first, because then you can get you can celebrate that you've accomplished something and you can start snowballing faster. If you take the longest one, the snowball gets put off for a while and you're working away at it, but you don't really see the psychological benefits. It depends on your personality. We've had some people who really like the feedback of accomplishing small goals quickly. We have other people who say, no, I've done the calculation and this will cost me the most money. I want to pay this one off. Great. Do what suits your personality.
Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of the one that paying off the smallest one first, because again, just getting that traction. But yeah, it really depends on the client and what their goal is. We recently worked with a wonderful couple in Georgia who had an opportunity to sell a car, and they wanted to know, so if they sell the car and they just freed up that money on a monthly basis, how long would it take them and what would that cost them in interest as they continue to pay what they're paying on their credit cards, or if they use that money from the car and they paid off some of the credit card debt, what would that look like? And we ran the numbers for them, and it was a couple $1,000s of interest that they would have to pay over the course of the couple of years. If they decided that they just wanted to free up that, I think it was like $450 a month to give them more breathing room on a month-to-month basis. And we ran the numbers for them. They had an opportunity to see what they look like, and they decided to go with the selling the car but freeing up that money on a month-to-month basis. They felt like that would give them that breathing room they needed to be successful in everything else regarding their spending plan. And I agree with them 100%. It may cost them over the course of maybe, let's say, 4 or 5 years, a couple of $1,000s, but if they're able to implement their entire spending plan in the long run and take and run with that for years, versus enduring,
yep,
having a tighter income and enduring that. So again, it's not always about the math. You have to put into play living.
Yeah. And you have to. One of the things that we constantly discuss with financial advisors, there are software packages out there that can generate a cash flow plan, and a lot of financial advisors will say, why do we need your services when we can just put the numbers into a computer program and be done with it? The reason is the computer of most of those programs don't ask those type of questions. What is your thought process? What is important to you in that regard, in that type of detail? Some of those programs are very good, but a lot of them don't ask those type of questions, and that's where our expertise comes in. That's where our value actually comes in, is we tailor every spending plan that we prepare to that client, and we really pay attention to what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what their goals are, what their mindsets are, and because that's how you make a plan that's going to work.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, it's just numbers on a piece of paper, and I hear myself say all the time, you can Tetris numbers and make them work, but it's a whole other art to actually figuring out how to live within that. And sometimes you very quickly see, no, I'm not going to be able to just spend $100 on dining out in an entire month for my family of 5.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. It's absolutely not going to work. So yeah, so that's what we do. One of the other things that we wanted to talk to you about today, it's kind of goes along the line with the conversation about paying down debt effectively and efficiently, and that is, how do you save money? For so many people, and this was my situation for years and years and years, is I had a savings account, but I should have just crossed out savings and put holding account or tapping account. Because every single month I would successfully save that money because it was automated. But every single month I was having to tap it. And every time I did, it was a hit to my emotions, and it was very frustrating. I just assumed that I was a bad saver. What we've realized is that most often when that is the case, it's that we're trying to save too aggressively. It's either for our financial situation or for somebody told you one day that you should be saving 10% of your income, and so out of nowhere you just pull $200 out of your cash flow, the amount of money you have available to you on a monthly basis, and you didn't realize that, wow, I actually really, really need that money. If I saved maybe just $50, I could be more successful. Yeah. So one of the things that we will very often suggest to people, and it seems counterintuitive, but our success rate stands for itself, is to actually ease back on the amount that you're saving until you can get some of those changes in your spending solid, and then you can start to increase, or you can start, even better, use the 50-50 rule. That's circular.
Because there's no hit on your lifestyle. The other thing that goes along with that, and that we've talked about many times, and we've set up spending plans and we've set up money tracking plans based on it, is that every dollar has a purpose. All right, I'm paying off a bill, I'm investing in this, I'm buying groceries, whatever. And when I'm saving money, I'm not saving money. I'm not just saving money into a savings account. I'm not saving because I should save it. I am saving $200 a week. $50 of that is going for my vacation in the Bahamas. $25 of that is going for the new car that I want. $15 of that is going for my wife's Christmas present. Every dollar has a goal. So when you're saving money, it's not I'm putting $200 in my savings account. It's I am funding these savings goals, because then you're less likely to raid them because they have a purpose, and you understand that if I take money out of that, I'm setting that goal back. The other is you feel good because you know that you're saving that for a purpose. There's a reason why it's happening. And I think that is really key. And also, if you lay that out as all part of your cash flow, it will avoid the problem you had of somebody just saying, oh, I'm saving $200 because that's a good number. No, you've done your plan to figure out, here's how much money I need to spend, here's how much I can save. It's going to save for these purposes, which means that in this amount of time, I will have the money to go do that. How you do that is up to you. There are people who still do like the envelope system where they actually put cash in envelopes. That's I think that's a little bit obsolete in today's day and age. There are people who keep running totals on an Excel spreadsheet, and they have one savings account, and there's $4,000 in there, but they know that 1,800 of it is for this, 200 of it is for this, 50 of it is for this, and they've got it all, earmarked. One of the things that we recommend a lot of for savings is there are some banks that will let you set up multiple savings accounts. Our favorite is Capital One. It used to be ING Direct.
Specifically Capital One 360.
Capital One 360,
Yeah.
because what they do is they have a number of, you can have, I think was it 12 or 18 accounts? I think it's a large number of accounts.
Yeah, it's I think now it's close to 20.
Okay.
One thing with Capital One 360 real quick is they started one of their savings accounts is a money market. Be very careful when you're going in there. This is something new. I just had a client actually go in and open up one of those accounts. So if this is an account that you want to be able to, I think of Capital One 360 almost like is like a bit of a holding account, because that money is going to be spent.
Yes.
At some point, you just want to make sure that when you're setting those up, it's the savings accounts and it's not an account where there may be restrictions around tapping
or service
money.
charges or anything like that. But that's one of the beauties of it is you can set these multiple savings accounts up. They don't cost anything, and you can name the accounts for exactly what you're saving for. So then again, you look at where your money's going. It's very clear to see I'm saving money for this. And that's whatever method you choose, making sure that the money that you save, just like the money that you spend, has a specific purpose will make it a lot easier to save.
Yeah, it's funny, I was going back to that conversation I had this morning with the clients here in Silicon Valley. They both work long days. There's some spreadsheets involved with what they're doing. They're very involved in their daughter's school life, her activities after school. The last thing that they want to do, which they expressed to me, and I get it, is to sit down and feel like they've got another business, which is their finances. Unfortunately, the amount of categories that we have where we spend in, I believe that our spending plan has about 70 categories, which over the course of a given year, you're going to spend in these 70 categories, right? There is a level of planning that needs to be done. So when Kevin's talking about a little money's going here and a little money's going there, I understand how that can seem like, oh my God, that level of detail, that's like, I want to stick a fork in my eye. That's just it's too overwhelming. But the work will be worth it. I stand by that it will be worth it, because if you take 2 steps back and you think about maybe the things that you're not able to do right now because the money's not there, and then you take 10 steps back and you look at money that is gone that you did not necessarily get the most enjoyment or value out of, it's quite possible that you could have used that money for the things that you really want to do. And so from that perspective, it's definitely worth it, because you're probably this close to living the life you want, to a degree. I understand we all want to win the lotto and live that life. Actually, I don't, but the money would be good. I just don't want to. I like my little house. But it's that idea that the work on the front is going to be worth it, and you chip away at it. You don't have to do it all at once. You just chip away at it.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of the savings, one of the other things, and this goes back to the comment you made earlier about trying to do it all at once. There's a pretty common adage floating around there. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. And it's the same idea with savings. If it seems daunting to save 10 or 15% of your salary, don't save 10 or 15% of your salary. Save 2%. And then do that for 1 month. Then after a month, save 3%. Then after a month, save 4%. And slowly build your way up to the level of savings that you want to get. What we're trying to avoid is, again, we don't want that yo-yoing. We don't want you to take 15% of your salary, put it into savings, and then the next month have to go rate it to pay the bills or to do something. We want you to slowly adjust your lifestyle so that the money that you save, you're really saving. You're not having to rate it for different things.
We live in a society where we find it entertaining to put civilians that live in the suburbs or in cities, and we send them out to an island and we televise them having to suffer through and endure these horrific things. We are a society that feels like anything worth doing is worth making it as hard as possible to execute. And then film it for entertainment.
And then film for entertainment, yeah. Then laugh at people when they struggle. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's almost like we're conditioned that anything like this has to be hard. And I feel like it's the same in the nutrition industry. Yep. It's I've got to do I'm not going to name names because I don't want to make anybody angry that might be doing a specific diet right now. But when we try to make it so challenging, first of all, it's usually short term, right? Because you're enduring, it's not sustainable. Exactly. And so this system, and you can even go to 1%, and then increase every 3 months.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you, do that. So I'll give you an example. If your paycheck is $2,000 and you start saving 1%, that's $20. If you're spending that money on dinner every night, there's one night that you can cook at home and make that happen, right? And then you get used to that. And just like Kevin said, 3 months from now, save another 1%. Yeah. Within just a little over a year, you're going to be saving 5% of your income, which is almost twice over the average that people, the median average that people save. I was on a tirade with this, and I was going somewhere with this. About just keep it simple. Keep it simple, keep it easy. Be willing to have it take time, because in the long run, you're not only going to be building that muscle of habit, but you're also going to have all that money that you're saving going along the way, versus trying to do this in chunks and then losing chunks as you're going along because it's not sustainable.
Yeah. And I think that is another key principle, is that we're all in this for the long game. Whether you're 20 years old and just starting your career, whether you are 5 years from retirement, we're in this for the long game. And yet, granted, if you do it later in life, you've lost some compound interest benefits and things like that, but you still have to look at what are we going to do what changes are we going to make that are going to let ourselves enjoy our lifestyle for the rest of our lives. And so you always have to think about that. The quick fixes that you may feel, I can endure this for a fixed amount of time. Usually the rebound from that is not going to be nearly as productive as coming up with a more gradual method that you are going to be able to sustain for the longer time period.
And I think the challenge in that is taking that time to do the work. And even do the work sounds more work than it really is. But it's taking that time to look at, what is your income and what are your expenses? What expenses are you just not getting the most value out of anymore that you can go ahead and let go of, that now you've got more money maybe to put towards debt or your savings or to the things that you want to do?
Yep.
What are the things that you want to do? That's actually the very first conversation we have with clients.
Yeah.
What does life look like now, and what are you not doing that you want to do or you want to do more of, so that we can really zero in and have that carrot as we're building your spending plan around it.
And what's surprising is the number of people who struggle to answer that question. You wrote an article called The 20-Year Sprint.
Oh, it's one of my favorite articles.
And the gist of the article is we get on this treadmill of working, getting raises, buying the house, buying the extra car, joining the country club, doing these things. 20 years go by and we look at what we've accomplished, and is it really what we wanted to accomplish, or were we just kind of on autopilot and now 20 years have gone by? And so it really is beneficial at multiple stages in your life to stop and say, what do I want to accomplish, and is what I am doing now furthering that goal? And if it's not, then you need to look long and hard at why. Are there other reasons for doing what you're doing now, or do you need to change it? And how do you change it?
So I'll add to that, and he's not talking just financial. He's talking about, hey Travis, he's talking about, am I dressing the way I want to dress? Am I visiting the places that I want to visit? Am I dining out at the places that I want to go out to? Yeah. Tuesday is the anniversary of my husband's first date, the 25th anniversary of our first date, and we're going to one of our absolute favorite restaurants and being very, very purposeful about that. By the way, it's your wife Lita's.
It's our wedding anniversary.
25th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
My husband left his wedding to go and have my first date. Thanks for having a morning wedding.
My pleasure.
Oh my gosh, Travis, yes, we did probably start dating when you're not 20, you were 25. Oh,
when you were 5.
Okay, when you were 5, okay. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
He's making a joke about how young you look.
Oh.
Yeah, when you were 5.
When I was 5. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. See, I automatically assumed it was a negative comment. Talk about the way that the brain works. Yes, thank you very much, Travis.
So again, this kind of, and this also goes back to, I think one of the first presentations that you gave when we were just starting the Savvy Life, which was the idea of finding you and Paul going out to chain restaurants and just to go out and do this because you were fatigued, you didn't have food in the house, and so you're going to go do that, and you're spending $20, $30, $40 at a place, and then afterwards you come back and say, I didn't really enjoy that, and wouldn't it be so much better to save that money and 1/3 of the time go spend $120 at a nice restaurant? And so again, it's just the idea of what are you doing? Is this really what you want to do? Are you getting the enjoyment? Are you getting the benefit out of it that you really are looking for? And if not, change your behavior.
Yeah, that was a pivotal point in actually our personal lives, our financial lives, as well as the Savvy Life, is that it would be a weekend, and we'd be for the third time that weekend at like you said, at some mediocre chain restaurant, complaining that we couldn't go to our favorite high-end restaurants and complaining that the food wasn't that good. I think the embarrassing part of that whole time frame, which is probably maybe about 5 years, is that we both love to cook.
Yeah.
It's just that we weren't organized around it. We were, or we were just a hot mess, just basically. And I remember we went to breakfast one weekend and walked out, and I realized, first of all, that we had spent $40 on breakfast just for the two of us.
Yeah,
it
pancakes.
was lousy. It was really lousy. And by the time we had arrived at the restaurant and parked the car, I could have made breakfast. I grew up on a farm. I mean, I can make
You're
breakfast.
Very good cook. Yeah.
That we, for pennies on the dollar, and by the time we had parked the car to walk into the restaurant, I could have already made breakfast and had the dishes done. So that was to us a pivotal point in having us realize that our time and our money were not going where we wanted it to go with food. And I will tell you, and you can ask many of our friends, because we were texting while we're doing this, mine and Paul's, one of our favorite things to do on the weekend is to cook a meal together. A couple Guinnesses while we're cooking. He's got music playing, and that is a treasure. And I have that now versus those lousy meals. So not only do I have better food, I'm saving money so I can do other things that I want to do, but I have these memories that I'm making with my husband and my kid running around, and the cat, the dog, and the life.
And loop back. It's not like you gave up going out to eat. You're going to go out to your favorite restaurant.
Exactly.
But now, this is a special occasion. You can. It's infrequent enough so that it is a special occasion. It's a higher end restaurant, so it's better quality food. We have a friend who is retired now, and this man used to cook absolutely fantastic meals. And I've said this before, his philosophy was, I refuse to pay for a meal that is not as good as I can cook at home. So, he set that bar really high. He was a fantastic cook. So his idea was that I'm only going to go to a restaurant that makes food better than what I can cook. That's kind of an ambitious goal, but it's not a bad one. Again, it's kind of self-leveling. But it kind of makes sense, because if you can cook better than what you're getting in the restaurant, what are you paying for? You're paying for the ease of not having to cook and not having to clean, and you're paying for maybe some of the ambience and just get out of the house. Okay, that's worth understanding, but is that really worth the cost? Are there other things you can do to make things so that things are more affordable for you, and then when you do go out, you can go to a higher place that get something that you can't normally get at home.
That's the restaurant example, but there are other examples as well. Clothes, walking into stores for one item, walking out, pushing a shopping cart. I think the biggest challenge is creating an awareness. There was another article that I wrote based on a conversation I had with a financial advisor called Swipe, Go, Not No. Is the name of the article. You can find it on the Savvy Life's website. And that's the idea of, we walk into a store, we walk up to the counter, to the clerk, we swipe our card, and we walk out, and we get to the parking lot.
How much did you spend?
And we have no idea how much we spent. Now, I say we because that happens to me maybe every 6-7 weeks, because I'm off in Melissa world. Yep. And I'm not paying attention. And even though I know for the most part, I could have gotten charged for the other person's groceries. There's a lot of reasons we need to be aware. But Travis, we always have a bunch of tiny emergency buys. I'd actually like to know, can you expand on that?
What are your emergency buys?
So while you type that up, just that idea of becoming aware and conscious, whether you're swiping your card, you're purchasing something online, or just becoming aware and conscious of where do you want your money to go? And because that's the start to changing your habits. And hopefully Travis is typing away right now. Had to pay a tow company to jump my car.
Oh, okay. So there's kind of like random things that really are emergencies.
Which would come from your emergency fund. Right? That's what that emergency fund is the stuff that it just happens. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you about that. And so again, that's something that when he typed this, I didn't have a jump pack when I should have. And we talk about having the emergency account. There are a lot of places that talk about what kind of emergency kit you should have in your car, what kind of emergency kit you should have in your home, and is it worth it to be part of AAA or National Automobile Club or any one of those services? And those are all decisions that you should make. But I think that, and we don't necessarily have a one-size-fits-all answer for that, other than to say, ask yourself the question and make the choice intentionally rather than just reacting to what happens. Okay? If you decide, you know what, I've only had to have my car jumped once in the past 20 years. It's not worth it for me to buy jumper cables. Okay, that's fine. You thought about it and you made the decision. And for right or wrong, that you made that decision based upon some reflection rather than just saying, oh crap, my car doesn't start now. I need to go find someone to jump.
Yeah, I think sometimes too we need to have those hard experiences in order to make those decisions for the next time. Honestly, there's so much in life. I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want it to sound like life is hard. I hate that saying. There are just so many things that can happen as you go along that it's impossible to have a plan for everything. And it's part of why you have your big emergency fund, right? It's for all of those little things it's impossible to plan ahead for. But as you go along, you start to learn that the things that are going to pop up a little bit more.
And like Travis said, it cost me more than the jump packs, and now you spent 2 times. That's true. And so now you have to decide, was that a fluke, and that's not going to happen again for another 20 years, so that's fine to amortize it, or okay, I don't want to have to deal with that in 2 to 3 years. I'm going to go buy myself instead of jumper cables or something, or the jump pack, and just to clarify the difference there's 2 things going on. Travis is referring to a jump pack. That's actually a pack that has a battery built into it, so you don't need to have another car. It actually is it's an emergency battery that can get your car going. And you can there you are, exactly.
So you get it.
So again, you can decide what you want to do, but just again thinking about those things. One thing that I think is important to understand about that. You cannot cover every emergency, every eventuality. You'll drive yourself crazy and you'll drive yourself to the poorhouse. So you have to make those risk analysis decisions. Which ones are valid for me to for me to cover? It's a really classic example is do you pay for
travel insurance?
Travel insurance. Okay. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. There are different cases. We can talk a whole separate session on that. We're getting close to the end of the hour. But make those decisions intentionally, not from a point of reaction.
Again, that's part of what your emergency fund is for too. So you're picking and choosing the ones that you want to separately save for, but the emergency fund is going to help it's going to be bit of your parachute. Yeah. So what else?
Well, we've talked about the 50-50 rule. We talked about Goldfish syndrome. We talked about paying down debt.
You guys should be all set.
Yeah, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Wow, yeah. Do we know what we're going to talk about next time?
So actually, I challenge you. Because Travis, you are an expert now.
Yeah.
So we would love to hear from you. We have content bleeding out of our ears. We can talk extensively about all different aspects of your day-to-day finances. We want to know what you want us to zero in on. So whether you type that in now or you connect with us on social media, we're at The Savvy Life on Facebook, the same for Twitter. You can find us both on LinkedIn separately. And just, do you want to know about how much you should be saving in your emergency fund? Do you want to know about how to shop for groceries smarter, shop for clothes smarter? run the gamut.
Yeah, how to finance some idea on how to organize like remodeling a house or something like that. Travis is
projects,
saying, yeah, maybe some hands-on walkthroughs of budgets and practices. Can we do that?
We can show off our spending plan.
Caffeine. It'll be a little challenging to figure out how to show the actual plans and things like that. We do that in webinars and stuff because we can use PowerPoint and show things like that. We'll see if we can put something together that we can do. Travis can help even better.
Oh, fantastic.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take you up on that. So just so everybody knows, Travis works for Caffeine TV, and he's one of our favorite folks that joins us for these sessions. And he's actually, we've talked with him about just outside of Caffeine TV about all things money as well. So he's one of our favorites. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, we'll think you up on the best way to do that. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah. So we can talk about, we can actually show you how the structure of how we create spending plans so you can take and run with it. Yeah.
And so saying that, our next session will be on Thursday, March 28th at noon Pacific time. Melissa told you that we're on Twitter and Facebook, a website, thesavvylife.com. You can see our articles and blog. You can see videos of these Caffeine TV sessions. So our contact information is on there as well, so you can contact us and give us ideas and give us feedback. And
the list, you can also sign up for our weekly list, yes, which is every Monday we send out a newsletter of, if you will, and it's a list of just 3 either tasks, challenges, or habits to implement to start living or sustaining your savvy life. And we also will, in those newsletters, we let you know when we have, when a new session will come up on Caffeine TV, or links to previous recordings. We also have links to our articles in that newsletter as well. So it's really just one of the best things to stay in contact with us and know what's going on. So it's on our homepage, and you can see a little video of me also using my hands because I talk with my hands a lot. And you can just sign up right there. It's free.
Yep. Yeah, and we don't share emails with anybody, so all that.
Nope. Yeah. All right, awesome.
Okay.
You guys have a wonderful couple of weeks, and we'll see you on the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Travis.
Bye.